Blog Talk Radio.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom, I'll keep my guns, try to keep my money and my religion too.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
I'm going to keep my big VA, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need. We know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA and y'all can keep the change.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. And my guest today is David J. Diabado. Did I get it right, David?
Pretty close.
Very close.
It's pronounced Dadabo.
Dadabo. All right, sir. Well, I'll just call you David if that's all right. David, I've got it up on my website that we're going to talk about militia formation. Now, I'm fairly qualified to do that. According to the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law, I started at the militias in New Mexico and advertised them in my magazine, all of which is absolutely true. But this all started before Oklahoma City, and they used Oklahoma City to try to demonize and dismantle the militia movement that me, John Frogman, Mark Kornicki, and quite a few others got started back in about 1994. Tell me how you became involved with this. What prompted you to get interested in the militia, and we'll start there.
Okay, very good. I live in northern Utah now, but about 1993, I was in Prescott, Arizona area, where I'd moved from Mesa, Arizona to that area. And we got to, in 1993-94, I got real concerned about what was going on with, I call him King Clinton and his mistress Reno, what they were doing on trying to remove the rights to bear arms, and also to downplay the important role of militias and trying to make militias look like they're some kind of hate crime organizations that go around breaking laws and taking from people, being bad guys. So basically I started looking into them because I was always a gun enthusiast. My dad was in the United States Marine Corps sergeant. I knew how to shoot a .30-06 at the age of 8 and knew how to operate other smaller arms pretty well by the time I was 12. So I've always been a gun enthusiast, and gun rights are not to be infringed in this nation according to the supreme laws of the land. So I got out in the Prescott area and I started talking to people, and we got organized and we formed the Arizona Sons and Daughters of Liberty, which was a militia group mainly focusing on the trying to get the various independent militias of Arizona together so that we could address these media concerns that were coming out that were incorrect. As what they like to do back then, if you remember, is they'll take your statement, the press will, and then they'll leave out the important words and put in half of what you said, and that's the front page. and then everybody thinks you're some kind of crazy militiaman trying to hurt everybody. So we wanted to get all the militias of Arizona together and have spokesmen that would speak for them, to the press for the militias, not holding any militia bound or to any other, because they work better if they're separate and independent. But we met with actually it was on October 15th, 1995 in Phoenix, Arizona. We had a general meeting with various independent militias, and another one just prior to that in June. And the second meeting that we held was primarily to address media relations and streamline communications and establish accountability for a spokesman of the group to represent the public eye. Because what we wanted to do was to create a oversight committee of the militias, because that's our problem, is people who are patriots who served in the military, who are on the police forces and sheriff forces across the nation, they've taken swear oaths to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and or domestic. And that oath is an oath to God. It's a promise that we've all made to our Creator, and it stands above, foremost, any other contracts you may sign or agreements you may obtain or write with any man on earth. And it's very important to remember, especially to all people who are out there that have sworn that oath to in law enforcement and in military capacities. So the militias was one of the very last, second to the last stances of protecting the people's rights according to the constitutional laws and Bill of Rights that were inserted into them with laws for government. So what we were trying to do was to get all militias to work with the local sheriffs in their counties. We believe, and I still do today, and we're really actively working on that, trying to get organized across the nation so that the constitutional sheriff posse organization headed by ex-sheriff of Arizona, Richard Mack, who was instrumental in that Brady bill defeat in the Supreme Court. But I think Richard is a very good spokesman for that group, and I know him. He's a good, honorable man. But what we wanted to do was to make sure that the militia groups were acting in according to law of the land, not the law of statutes that are created to operate government.
Now, let me just add in here that the militias formed in New Mexico, they were trained at an NRA range, and my sons, one of whom wasn't even a teenager, trained with them. And I brought in professionals to show, how to use a handgun. By the way, my sons outshot everybody there. All the ex-military and all that. But the whole propaganda campaign started almost immediately after we did that.
Yeah, right. And see, they don't want the nation to know. When I say the present-day operating governments, and from federal all the way down to the town hall in your small town, wherever you're at, they don't want you to know that the people are in charge here, we the people. And that's why when you read the Constitution, the original format, this Constitution, we the people is, well, I'd say a font of maybe 30 compared to the other writing. It's maybe a font of 10. And the original founders, when they wrote that, wanted the government and the world to know that we the people were above the constitutional law. We made the law for government, okay? And the law was specifically made to control and deter government from becoming necessary for the people to declare an independence again. And the Declaration of Independence is a law. It's the first law. It's the highest law. It states to the government, this is what we the people can do to you if you screw up, okay? And basically they've been screwing up ever since, the last 30 years, and with the acts that have been rushed through on 9/11 and thereafter, and they disguise them and call them Patriot Acts and National Defense Acts, and everybody says, well, it's a great title, it must be good. So what it really is Death of the Communist Manifesto being infiltrated in law by the Department of Justice, Homeland Security.
Well, and Homeland Security is nothing more than the Politburo restructured, the KGB, the Mossad. They demanded an office in Homeland Security, but our Congress, who seems to love Israel, really gave them the whole ball of wax. So now Southern Poverty Law is providing all of the data, all of the information on these dangerous veterans and militias, and of course, you know, us right-wing extremist, anti-government, tax protesting radicals.
Well, remember when I said that the Constitution was made and written by the people for governments to operate? Okay, everybody that needs to understand that. It's very important, because the constitutional laws and all the amendments, including the 16th Amendment and everything else, only obtain jurisdiction or authority over the people to protect the people's rights. They can't insert anything to remove or infringe upon the rights of the people. They can't take away any rights at all of the people. They have no authority to do that, number one, because that's what the Declaration of Independence is about, saying they can't do this. And the Bill of Rights was put into the into the Constitution to remind the government that they can't do this again. And the founding fathers thought, well, now we have it covered. So I want you to look at it as though, let's say McDonald's is the Constitution. They have an inside public policy for their employees that they have to make these hamburgers just right and just so, and produce them all over. All the franchises have to do the same. Okay, so what the Constitution and let's say McDonald's is can't interfere with Burger King. Okay, so what we're talking about here is the Constitution of the United States has no authority or jurisdiction to infringe upon you and I, who are not elected officials in the three branches of government. Period. They can't infringe. They can't tax us on our goods. They can tax on goods sold because they're not our goods until we purchase them. Okay? They can import taxes. They can put sales taxes on.
That's right. But the Supreme Court, by the way, the Supreme Court contains a majority of dual citizens. They've got a majority of the Supreme Court, 6 of them, I believe, or 5. I'm sorry, I believe it's 5 are Jews. They are Jews. And one of those judges has been responsible for covering up Obama's birth certificate and preventing him from being hauled before the Supreme Court and impeached, possibly. She's been protecting him. Now, what else has happened just recently? I need to talk about this. I need to let people know. We have the buzz was going around the internet that the UN was coming in, that Hillary Clinton was going to sign this UN bill. And that was all the big news. But we just had this shooting in Colorado. And folks, if you don't understand what happened, they just sacrificed another 12 people for a false flag operation. And it wasn't just the UN. This is kind of a repeat of the Gabriel Giffords Judge Bowl assassination. This what happened in Aurora, Colorado. The police chief was linked to 9/11, linked to New York City, linked to the mayor of New York, worked for him in security, and now we're finding out that John Holmes, the shooter in this Colorado massacre, his father, Robert Holmes, is currently the senior lead scientist with the American credit score company FICO. Will soon testify to Senate on the Libor scandal that I've got all of the, it's all listed, all of the information on it. It's at the bottom of my website. And Robert Holmes' algorithms were said used to discover this massive fraud scheme. According to his profile in LinkedIn, Dr. Robert Holmes received a PhD in statistics in 1981 from the University of California at Berkeley, worked for San Diego-based HNC Software from 2000 to 2002. HNC, known as a neutral network company, and DARPA, beginning in 1988, have worked on developing Cotronic neural systems that would allow machines to interpret oral and visual stimuli and to think like humans. This Cotronic concept was developed by HNC Software chief and co-founder Robert Hertz Neeson. Robert Holmes continues to work at FICO, and that's the that turned into the Fair Isaac Corporation. FICO HNC merged with it. So here we got this is somebody that's involved in this Libor scandal, and bankers are starting to go to jail, starting to happen. And then we get this shooting here. Was this pressure being put on Holmes? Some type of
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, you know, my findings on John Holmes is also what I heard was that he was with a group of scientists prior to this event that were working on various aspects of mind, the brain, and I don't know what exactly it was. If it was anything to do with CIA ops and mind control or things like that, but I know that he was intensely working with that group for, I think, at least the previous year prior to the shooting. And I don't know how that links, or if it links to the shooting or what, but it sure raises a red flag for people to look at and to investigate. Because this is very serious stuff that these people are doing in the government to try to create propaganda to manipulate the people's way of thinking with the press, and what they put on the press and what they won't put on the press. And what you haven't heard on the press is, except for good shows like this and others that are trying to find the truth to all things, is that CEO Obama, I refuse to call him a president because he's not legally a president in my eyes, according to Sheriff Joe Arpaio and the special task force that went over to Hawaii to get evidence to support CEO Obama, to try to find out, well, if these people were, let's say he doesn't have the right birth certificate, or, barking up the wrong tree, and he wanted to prove that Obama was correct. But when he found out, what he found out was that Obama's been hiding that fact, and the Democratic Party has been hiding it. They knew it 4 years before they put him into office, that there was a problem with the birth certificate. So they tried to introduce bills into Congress to eliminate that clause in the Constitution, which none of them passed. You're right. They did that. The Democrats were trying to do that. They were trying to cover up, because they also have a secondary candidate that they want to put in the presidential slot, and that would be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, and a good friend of mine, Mr. Walter Berrien, who's instrumental in exposing the comprehensive annual financial reports across the nation of all these. Like, you might look at the present-day United States and all the states thereof and cities and towns as a big conglomerate company, okay? And the United States is in control over the franchises of the 50 states. The 50 states are in charge of the franchises of counties in each state and the cities thereof. And everybody is connected by a corporation for profit instead of a corporation protecting their rights. Therefore, in the Libor scandal, excuse me for interrupting here, but in the Libor scandals, they've also discovered, and this is all linked up on my website, it's been pushed down, pretty much down to the lower regions, but this whole
this whole Lieber scandal is starting to put some bankers in jail. Some bankers are starting to be arrested, and they're starting to get real nervous about it. That's why they've organized this whole false flag attack, and they want people to be scared, man. They want you to be frightened. You know, they want you to be fearful of a terrorist attack. And I did I came out with the film Two-Face of FEMA, and I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting, and I responded to Colonel John Brinkerhoff by telling people that you got about as much chance of getting killed by a terrorist in America as you do getting eaten by a great white in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And they, you know, what I said was true at the time. Now they're trying to turn this around and trying to make some, you know, psychiatrically disturbed, probably pilled up, because he looks like he's strung out on Luvox or Haldol or something like that when he went into court. Yeah, and by the way, folks, they are doing that to all of Americans. Your children are being fed, you know, these psychotropic drugs. There more people have died from pharmaceuticals issued by a doctor than have died from all the heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine that's being used illegally in this country.
You're quite correct on that.
And by the way I got started on this, the first time I got threatened by the CIA was when I blew the whistle on George Bush running the drugs into a little protected airport called Mena, Arkansas, where it was protected by the governor of Arkansas at the time, Barry Seal, who I happened to have met, flew that in. Terry Reid confirmed that, the author of the book Compromised, and how come you never heard about it? Well, because they tried to kill me from getting this information out. And it's now out in Mystery Babylon, my book, Mystery Babylon. I've got the whole story of Operation Watchtower of the and the whole Jewish protocols and the Jewish operation of Homeland Security is all in my book, Mystery Babylon, folks. But they don't want you to read it. They don't want you to order it. They're blocking my websites and things. We are really in my new series of columns, David, is talking about the 21st century. Now, we have moved into the 21st century. It's supposed to be the end of the world according to the Mayans, and they want you to be afraid of something you can't see, you can't touch. Wow, watch out, the sun might explode, man. You know, one of those clouds might get you. Be afraid. Be afraid. They want you to be afraid, and that's what Alex Jones does. Now, I think we got answers, folks. They don't have the power that they have. They got the money. They can buy their corporations. Your founding father, Thomas Jefferson, warned you, if you ever allow a bank to issue its your money, your children will grow up homeless in the land we've conquered. That is what happened. And the militia formed, and you were absolutely right about the militia. Now, the ADL will tell you that I formed the militia in New Mexico like it was some kind of terrorist organization. You don't form terrorist organizations in the governor's office. And what David is talking about here,
contact with the adjutant general also.
What David is doing, yes, and the WHAM, the well-regulated American militias site, which is not a militia in itself, but they are there to advise and promote this. They are talking with their sheriff. The militia in Texas, in that particular county, is under the sheriff. They just basically became deputies, and they're there if the sheriff needs them. Now, that's what we need. Now, the Homeland Security says in case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, we'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops to control the American people, because some of them just don't follow orders. Some of them won't line up on the Kmart parking lot to get a vaccine that'll kill us in 5 years. No, some of us won't do that.
No, and you know, people that are listening to this, these facts are founded on what Clay's stating and what I'm stating are. I've been investigating this for over 18 years. You know, thousands of hours, and I'm a guy that things have got to make sense. That, you know, if something doesn't look right, I check it out and figure it out and learn what the truth is. And what I learned quickly was that anything printed in the press you can take as half-truth, and you better investigate it yourself. Unless it was handwritten by somebody who said that all these words are my own. they'll leave out important parts of phrases and letters written or things that you said so they can make you look like something bad, and they can sensationalize on the report, therefore sell more newspapers or get more people to look at their TV show. So when you're talking about CIA going after you, Clay, and if you remember in Waco, David Koresh, and what I've heard on him was that he had the same kind of information on Clinton and his crew at Buffalo Airlines, and it was nothing to do with illegal guns or shotguns that were too short or whatever. You know, that they made up these crimes. And what David did was, as far as my intel goes, was he sent a report to the FBI in Oklahoma, and he sent a report to the FBI there in Texas about this Buffalo Airlines bringing in prostitution, child prostitutes, and military airlines unloaded by military people, and also all kinds of drugs, cocaine, and marijuana. And he was reporting this. He had it on video, he had it on tape, and that's why him and his people were killed and murdered. Whatever they tell you, and they try to make him look like some wacko evil guy. From everything I've looked at, yeah, he had some strange ways of religious beliefs, but that's his right in America, you know. And I can't tell anybody else how they want to worship their creator. Neither can the government. And if I can't do it, the government can't do it. They have no power to do it. But when the government is working against the Antitrust Act, and that's in look in the case of Lorien Journal Company and University of the United States, 342 U.S. 143 96 L ED 16272 S Court from Supreme Court 181, and there's another one at United States Paramount Pictures. They made the government now is being entrapped by their own policies and laws, especially the Antitrust Act for monopolies. And that's what I said earlier, is you look at the United States as being working for the IMF. They owe the debt to them, and so they want to get as many, let's say, securities to hold up their debt, honor, so they can print money in the trillions. So the IMF says, well, you basically have to entrap all the people to be bond servants under you. So how do we do that? Well, we create the Social Security system, and when you sign that Social Security number, you become a security. You become an entity of the corporation, and therefore capitalization, if you look it up in a law book, means that your name becomes capitalized all the way through instead of the way your surname was and your birth given name was written properly. So when you do that, you willfully signed or unknowingly signed, but here's what the government thinks: if you don't know your rights, we can take them from you. So they entrap you into signing at UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, these contracts. And then they quickly insert a thing into state constitutions where, and laws and statutes, that contracts cannot be overridden by government. So here you go. You got everybody signing contracts all day long that they don't know they're signing just by giving somebody a Social Security number. And under contract law, they can arrest you and stop you for speeding or something that you didn't hurt anybody, or damage any property, but they can do these things because it's connected to you under your signature. So your signature is very, very, very important, Americans. When you sign something, you should always write "all rights reserved" after it. Therefore, negating the contract that's hidden, that was not fully disclosed to you,